Oh, this is tremendous. Unfortunately, we're in a really big crisis where people are freaking out and not knowing where to go for help. This segment will help you find help. We've got Alan Garfinkel on. He is the expert on business interruption insurance, internationally speaks and writes columns about this all the time. He has all kinds of different folks that he's helped out. He's recovered billions of dollars in commercial real estate, insurance claims, and other types of claims. So, Alan Garfinkel, welcome back to the show.
Thanks a million, Jim. Pleasure to be on.
It's my pleasure to have you, Alan. Now, let's just get right to it. Is there one business event that can trigger business interruption coverage, or is there a multiple events?
There's multiple events, Jim, but one event that everybody knows regarding this pandemic is if the state or a local official issued any sort of stay-at-home order, that triggers your coverage.
Really? But that's just about everywhere in the United States and, in fact, the world.
It is. Sounds
so that
crazy.
means that just about everybody's eligible.
That's correct. However, what the insurance companies are going to do in these business interruption claims that I've handled for 30 years is they're always going to fall back on something that's called physical loss is required. So what is a physical loss? Well, people normally think, oh my goodness, this pandemic, it's an act of God. Well, hurricanes, tornadoes, or earthquakes, they're also acts of God, Jim. So this pandemic is an act of God, yes, but is there damage to the property? And so that's typically what insurance companies require. So in this situation, does the roof blow off? No. Does the building burn down? No. But I will tell you that how coverage is triggered, if there is a infected person that was near the premise or inside the premise, whether it be a customer, an employee, I believe there's strong likelihood that you're able to move forward in pursuing the claim.
So let me ask you this, Alan. Let's say somebody lives in an apartment. Let's say somebody owns an apartment building. Somebody in the building got COVID-19. People withhold their rent. Is that a case?
You know, you'd have to look at the individual facts. Because when you say, is there a case, everybody has a case against anybody. The question is that whether or not it's collectible, whether or not it's recoverable. And one of the things that we would need and that we pay for, Jim, in terms of our law firm in pursuing these claims, is we comprehensively review the insurance policy that the business owner has paid for, and notwithstanding any exclusions. I don't care about what they say. The fact is that I want to see the certified copy, which generally the insured doesn't have. But I want to see their policy. Then we get the certified policy that has all the circulars and their pretend add-ons. Then we look at it, we thoroughly review the policy and to see whether or not there might be an exception to the exclusion, Jim. And then what we do is we ask them, okay, is there a triggering event? Oh, yes. We were part of an area where there was a government shutdown or partial shutdown. And then the next element that we would need is we need to have proof of damages. And as lawyers, we can't give our own evidence. You know, we're not a public adjuster. We can't give our own evidence, you know. We need facts. And the facts that we get is we hire experts, Jim, like Steve. And so what we do is we hire Steve's firm and we pay for Steve's firm. We say, Steve, you know, please review the value and the income statement and the profitability of the business right before the pandemic hit and then after. And then Steve's team would put together an estimate of damage, something that we call the damage model. And so that is really, really critical. And then we go forward. So does everybody have a claim? No, not everybody claim. Everybody doesn't have an insurance claim, Jim, because the first thing you do is you need to have insurance. You have to have business insurance. That's your first thing.
Now, Alan, you've gone through here. You've talked about people have claims, et cetera, et cetera. How does somebody, a little old small business person or a hotel owner that's already up to their eyeballs in debt and having a problem, afford you? You know, you've already touched on it a little, but you breezed right through it. You're different the way you charge fees. Tell me a little bit about that.
So we represent the small business owner and the mega corporation. We are representing clients with hundreds of thousands of dollars of loss and hundreds of millions of dollars of loss. And we represent the clients, the big and the small, both ways. And how we do it, Jim, is we comprehensively have our lawyers examine the policy. And you know, some of these policies are 1,000 pages, Jim. This is not a quick review of the deck page. You know, most of these companies, and I deal with most of these big companies, and they have internal HR people. They have people that have dealt with their insurance, their health insurance, and their EPLI insurance, and all sorts of insurance. And they think that they're an expert on it, but they're not. They're not an expert on insurance coverage law. And so just because you see an exclusion for virus doesn't mean that you're excluded regarding this, because what we do is we look at all aspects of the policy. Now, there might be an additional rider, for example, on business interruption, and that's how we get coverage for most of these claims. However, to answer your question, on these claims, Jim, we do a comprehensive review of the insurance policy for free. Whether it takes us 6 hours or 25 hours, we do it for free. And then what we do is, if we believe that there is sufficient basis to move forward, at our own opinion, at our own discretion, we move forward at our own cost, at our own expense, and at our own risk, including the costs and the payment of costs of big-time forensic accounting firms.
So let me ask you this, and it's kind of a two-part question. What type of business, in your experience, have really solid cases to recover money for revenues lost as a result of the pandemic? And here's what I really want to know. Is there like a smoking gun or a real nail in the coffin issue that makes it like a no-brainer?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a two-part question. The first question is that what are the likely businesses that are most likely to be eligible? And this is not an exhaustive list, okay? But the reason why that these categories of business are most likely to recover, because it most likely has a triggering event. And the triggering event is, was there a customer? Was there an employee? Was there someone that might have been tested positive or was affected by the coronavirus? For example, you've seen broadcasters on all networks that might have been exposed. Those broadcasting studios, should they have a diminution of revenues, they're eligible because there was someone that had a possibility of exposing their premises. So, for example, restaurants, hotels, shoot, even big law firms. If you can recall, one of the biggest outbreaks, Jim, came from a law firm and one lawyer in Westchester, New York, that just came back from a trip, I think, to Italy, and he exposed 70 people within the first week. You don't have to necessarily be down. But the fact is that, when you have this kind of virus, Jim, you're not seeing smoke marks and billowing flames and roofs being blown off. You're looking at possibly microscopic particles of the virus. Jim, I know when your wife gets a delivery and my wife gets a delivery at home, they're scrubbing the stuff that comes in the house. If someone with COVID came into our homes or in our business, that's a triggering event. So companies like restaurants, hotels, hair salons, multifamily apartments, condominiums, townhomes, retail, all of those are really likely business, Jim, that have had either a customer or an employee or a family member come in and expose.
Now, one of the questions, that people always want to ask is, if I make a claim, will my insurance go up? What's the story with that? Because, like they make insurance on cars and they say you get one accident freebie and stuff like that.
That's a brilliant question, Jim. And as business owners, and I know, your show is all about business, and this is really about making a business decision. Oh, geez, I have a $25,000 loss. Do I really want to make a $25,000 claim? I have a $250,000 loss. Okay, do I want to make a claim? Do I have a $500,000 loss? Do I want to make a claim? And the answer is that it is a business decision. However, what shouldn't affect a business decision, Jim, is whether or not there is a fear, and it's a real fear that has been subtly promoted for decades by the insurance company, with the reality of us being tremendously fearful of getting something that we're paying for. We pay religiously every quarterly, annually, whatever, to get all sorts of premiums. We have an expectation that if we don't pay our premium, we're not going to get insurance. That is a clear expectation. But imagine the kind of insidious idea that a condominium association or a restaurant is fearful about making a claim under their insurance contract for fear of them being dropped. In this situation, it should not be a fear. This is a national and international emergency. And the reality is, Jim, whether you make a claim or not, the reality is that everybody's insurance is going to go up as a result of this. But you will not be, and you cannot be, individually profiled, Jim, your business won't be profiled and say, oh, Jim made a claim, Alan didn't, therefore Jim's insurance is going to go up and Alan's not. That should not be a fear. Remove that fear, Jim.
Okay, let's go at it. I've got a problem. I own a hotel. It's been shut down. I've got 2 or 3 people that I can lease up because I'm next to the hospital, so I'm running 30% occupancy. Usually this time I run 80%. Alan, my insurance company says that I got no case. I call you. What do you tell me?
Okay, so I ask you a few questions, Jim.
Yeah.
You are the CFO for, you said, a hotel, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate you calling me. Number one, I understand you have a problem with your workforce and your revenues and so forth. You've already indicated that you have an extensive commercial business policy, and you've already read it. And my understanding is that you've already notified your insurance carrier, you personally, the CFO, and you're an accountant. You're a CPA that works in a big hotel, and that you do all their financing. You have a division under you that does payroll and staffing and so forth. You've submitted your claim, and I say, Jim, have you gotten anything back from the insurance company? And you say, yeah, they denied it.
Right.
They denied my claim. And then I say, okay, Jim, first of all, I need to see your policy. Okay, I need to review the document that you sent into them, Jim. I want to make sure that you didn't do anything stupid.
Me?
You didn't put yourself
wrong.
The fact is that it's a really technical process, and I'm very, very hopeful that you did not just limit your claim to certain provisions in the policy. But notwithstanding, whatever you've done, we can overcome. I want to see all the communications, Jim, between you and the insurance company. That's second. The third thing I'm going to ask you, Jim, is, Jim, do you know whether or not there was a client or a customer or a employee that might have been in one of your hotels that was exposed to the COVID-19 virus? Do you know?
Well, we're right next to Miami International Airport, and I'm sure that we've had some people there. I had my staff tested, and one person came down with it right before we closed.
Bingo. I think you have a case. And so what I'm going to do, is I'm going to go ahead and review thoroughly your insurance policy. Then I'm going to thoroughly review the denial from the insurance company. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a retainer agreement. And the retainer agreement is going to say, oh, not scary. It's going to disclose my hourly rate, but it's going to say, listen, under no circumstances will you ever get a bill from me, Jim, unless we obtain a recovery from you. And furthermore, when I have to hire experts, Jim, it's not just from your office. For example, the gentleman that you have also today is a specialized forensic accountant. Most people think, oh, geez, an accountant is an accountant, but it's apples and oranges when you're dealing with forensic accountants. These folks specialize, and I hire them. I pay for the costs. I advance those costs on behalf of your hotel, and you only get charged that bill of what Steve charges me in the event that we're successful. So in no circumstances, even if Steve's your guy, even if Steve is your accountant that does your work, if I pay for him to give me the information that I need to pursue your claim, I pay for it. I take that at my own risk. But you see, I need Steve's forensic accounting report as an outside expert to give me the proof that I need to say to the insurance company, listen, you've given a denial. I believe you're wrong. Here is the evidence of what I believe you're wrong. Here is the damages produced by Steve or our forensic CPA that shows how much loss that we have. Pay the claim. And we take all the responsibility. That is my law firms. We take the responsibility of making the fight. And again, I've been doing this for over 30 years, Jim. And we're not silly business people. We're going to move forward with the claim based upon what we believe is going to be successful. We are risking our time and our own money, Jim, because we believe in the claim. And so right now, before the show, Jim, you asked me, what are some real life examples of who are the clients that we represent? Believe it or not, Jim, we represent a lot of law firms that are really in trouble, big, prestigious law firms that you see that, they are resizing their workforce, that they're cutting pay for their attorneys and staff in preparation for the months.
Ackerman is doing that today. It was in the paper today. Ackerman, the biggest one.
Ackerman is the biggest law firm, I think, in Florida. And there is an article on that. Ackerman, I believe, does not have the model. I don't believe they have the model where they advance all the costs of hiring forensic CPAs, of reviewing these contracts, because that's what they are, Jim. These insurance policies are not policies, Jim. They're hard and fast contracts. And it's our job to fight the contracts. And if there is a breach of contract, me and my lawyers file a lawsuit, which could include breach of contract based upon the premiums that were paid and the denial, which we believe is a breach.
Now, Alan, I'm a Miami-based hotel operating company. I own select service hotels all across the country. It's not just Florida. Most of them are in these Democratic blue states. These governors have shut down these states. Can you help me outside of Florida?
Absolutely, all over the country. What we've done is, Jim, we've put together this team of really top lawyers that are top business, transactional, commercial, contract coverage experts. I've been designated an insurance coverage super lawyer by that periodical. What we've done is we've put together this group of some of the top lawyers in the entire country working together side by side as a team to take on these giant companies. So it's not just me, Jim. I work in every one of these cases for one fee. In every single one of these cases, I've partnered with these other really significant giant law firms that have handled sometimes over 100,000 insurance cases. And so we formed a team, a really super kind of syndicate to take on the giant insurance companies. And so that's why we're able to take on not just one of these cases against a Lloyd's of London or a Chubb, for example, but we're able to pool our resources, pool our talent, work together, and then take on these companies in a really smart, sophisticated way. And that's what we do.
Wow, this is tremendous. You know, we heard it takes a lot of hours and a lot of hands. That sounds like a lot of expense for me. Wrap it up into a nice bow and tell me why I'm calling you and how I get you.
Yeah, the fact is that like Steve demonstrated, Steve is a CPA, but he has drilled down his practice to be a forensic CPA and an investigator to kind of, like you said, peel back the onion and present and document a damage model for us that we can present. Likewise, to wrap up, this is not the case for every type of CPA or every type of lawyer. First of all, go see a lawyer. Absolutely, in these cases, please don't make the legal decision on your own. Please see a lawyer that specializes in this area, that does insurance coverage work, and see whether or not you have a claim. Please don't make the assumption that it's an act of God or there is a exclusion that you can see on your policy and you play lawyer. Don't play lawyer. In this situation, it's a very specified area of law. The fact is that there are exceptions to the policy or contract exclusions. Hire a lawyer and ask the lawyer to review your contract at no cost. And if they are a lawyer that does this type of subspecialized work, they ought to do that. That's it for me today, Jim.
All right, well, today we had a tremendous show. We talked about how to get money back to protect yourself with the best experts here in the state of Florida and, in fact, the country. Alan Garfinkel.